Hey guys, it's me. It's late here. I'm just hanging out, having an apple. Um, I guess I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the research I've just been doing and reading and whatnot. Um, I hate to say this, but unfortunately, I think it might be true. Because I actually really like the guy as a person. I think he's an alright person overall, generally. But I think the truth has to be told, regardless of how uncomfortable it might be in certain instances. And that is Barack Obama. Speaking objectively, and as an avid and enthusiastic student of American history, particularly United States history, obviously, being both an American and a U.S. citizen, I have to express my view on this, and that is that Barack Obama is probably the worst president that the United States has ever had. Now, not a bad person. I mean, I don't know. Necessarily. I don't really know him that well as a person, I have to say. We have met a few times, and he might not even remember, but we worked together a very long time ago when I was a small child, in a still classified but whistle-blown CIA DARPA project, along with another famous man named Andrew Basciago. Look up about Andy and Obama and the projects that they were involved in together. Well, yours truly was part of some of that stuff. Also, I was just tiny at the time, but I don't know. Looking at it objectively, I think Obama clearly has anger issues when it comes to white people, and is perhaps a racist against white people, or at least has a point to prove because of a gigantic chip on his shoulder. Maybe he feels like he made his point by now, but I think the entirety of his 8 years as president was largely, or in large part, I should say, comprised of trying to make white Americans feel like what I guess maybe he thinks it feels like to be a black person in America, black man in America. Point taken from this, very white guy. But I have to say that, I don't think that it's fair to do that. If you really study your history, white Americans are not responsible for, ultimately not really responsible for the difficulties that black Americans have had. Really, it's a circumstantial issue entirely. I mean, white Americans did not bring Africans to North America. It was in fact Europeans, and specifically mostly European Jewish merchants, who brought African slaves from then Islamic countries in Africa where they were already slaves, and probably in worse condition, actually, under Islamic rule, to North America, where they were sold by the European Jewish merchants to the plantation owners and whatnot in North America, who had to, had a moral obligation to do something with them. They couldn't really, just say, "Oh, we want nothing to do with you guys. We're not going to take care of you." Just, the slave traders would have, as they in fact did, with some of them, dumped them in the Atlantic Ocean. So the white plantation owners had a moral dilemma that was effectively enforced upon them, not something that they chose. And what were they to do? They made the best decision that the circumstances at the time allowed, which was to take on board as many of these Africans as possible and give them work to do. Yes, it was considered slavery. Yes, they were still slaves in this new world, in North America. They were slaves anyway. So probably most of them were not very well educated and didn't really understand any life other than that of a slave. So, and it had been that way probably for generations because of Islam. So really, the white Christian-oriented plantation owners in America really, made the best out of what was really a horrible situation, and gave these Africans work to do, educated them, and eventually, after a lot of time passed, completely liberated all of them from slavery. And now, after that, we had, problems with things gelling and meshing and integrating and etc. These things take time. It's not something that really, if you look at it completely objectively from a historical perspective, white Americans are not responsible ultimately for what happened, and are thus not really deserving of being punished by or made to feel, in need of being made to feel guilty or whatever by a man who is half black and is suddenly president, which I think is part of what the agenda of the Obama administration was, frankly. And, frankly, shame on you, Barack Obama, for doing that. I think you should know better. you're an educated, intelligent person, and you know your history, I'm sure. You know, your feelings have nothing to do with how you should have done your job. You know, you're president of a country that is mostly white, European descended American people. Why would you conduct yourself in such a manner that is hostile to the majority of the people who gave you this job? Anyway, I think that that's just one aspect of how bad the Obama administration was, and I think history will, you know, over time, as more is uncovered about the policies of the Obama administration, you will come to see that even James Buchanan, who effectively was responsible for the Civil War, was not as bad of a president as the last president that we had, Mr. Obama. I'm sorry to have to say this. I'm sorry to hurt your feelings, Barack, if you or your family watch this video. I care about you as a person, and I care about your family, and you know, I'm sorry to have to be critical of you in this way, and I want you to know that, you know, I wish you nothing but good things in your future, and nothing but good things for your family, and for African Americans in general, and African people in general. I know many fine African Americans, I know many fine Africans, and you know, I think we all, you know, share this planet ultimately, and we should be finding out ways to work together on things, and not be, you know, back and forth trying to hurt each other and hurt each other's not, you know, have a problem with specific groups or anything like that, because it's not really about that, and I know that. I've always known that, and I think for me as a white person to feel like I'm being, you know, targeted simply because of the color of my skin, and being thought of as part of something that I obviously had nothing to do with, is unjust, and I don't believe that I've ever done that to anybody else. You know, I mean, you may think that I have a position of privilege because of the color of my skin. And I guess to some extent that might be true, but that doesn't mean, you know, that I deserve to be punished for it. What I deserve, and what anybody in my position deserves, is, you know, respect as a human being, and to be treated with dignity, just as you would expect me to treat anybody else, and as I do. So if you want people to treat you with dignity and respect, you must do so yourself, frankly. And I'm not speaking to any particular group. I'm speaking to individuals here. You ultimately should deal with people on an individual basis and not on the basis of an us versus them or us and them mentality when it comes to superficial things like color of skin or ethnic background or anything that is ultimately irrelevant when it comes to determining the character of a person. Right? Right. These are basic things that I've learned from a number of places. I mean, Jesus Christ, for instance. Maybe you know who that is, Brock. If you're raised Muslim, I know you were. Jesus is one of your prophets, and I'm sure by now that you are aware that Islam is incorrect when it comes to its explanation of who Jesus was. He was not a prophet. He was in fact the Son of God. I know you know that, and therefore his words are deserving of much greater consideration than that of a mere prophet. You know what he said about treating others as you would have them treat you, right? Well, I think you could have done a much better job there, President Obama, and I think you had a really good opportunity to, make your point in a way that wasn't divisive and destructive, and didn't have to cause so much damage to people who, never really had an issue with you to begin with. I do think that you probably set the United States backwards, actually, in terms of race relations, and I think that it's going to take a while, probably, for a lot of people to heal and let go of bad feelings and anger and hurt, feeling like they were mistreated and this kind of thing. And I think you really should understand that. And I'm not one of those people. I'm, quick to get over things. And move forward and try to continue to try to make things better regardless of the difficulties that we might face. Well, I just want you to know that what you did and what you've done was very wrong. And I hope it never happens again. And it may have very long-term effects for the entire African American community. I mean, there may never be another black man as president because of what you've done, frankly. Maybe a black woman. Maybe a black woman will be the first female president. can see that happening. But it won't be Oprah Winfrey or anybody like that. She'll be a Republican, probably. Because on our side of the fence, we don't do things based on our feelings. We do things based on using our head and applying intelligence and wisdom. So maybe that's the real solution, people. Don't put any Democrats in office anytime soon, so we can fix these problems quicker. And when you're looking at your good Republican candidates, don't judge them superficially, because that's not really what it's about. It's about policy and the content of the character of the person, not anything superficial. Nothing to do with color of skin, nothing to do with gender, age, any of these things. It's just not relevant anymore, and anybody who thinks it is really stuck way in the past and is just living out something that just we should have let die a long time ago. And a lot of us, including myself, thought it was dead. And I thought we were over these issues like 25 years ago. I mean, it's not where I'm from, where I grew up. These are just non-issues that became national issues all over again. So, don't live in the past either, people, right? Okay, this is Michael Macintosh. Moving forward, 2018, 21st century. It's not 1964. Thanks, over and out.